Since coming to Congress, it's no secret that the border security has been one of my top priorities. As the only member of the Texas delegation, either Republican or Democrat, that sits on the Education Workforce Committee, this is a great intersection of issues that I know very intimately. Earlier this year, my resolution condemning the administration's open border policies passed the House, called upon the president to end those policies, and in fact got bipartisan support. Not just Republicans recognized it, but Democrats as well recognized that the president's current policies for open borders are hurting America top to bottom, and we see it in the education institutions in Texas and other ways. Public schools are operating on constrained budgets, and now with thousands of migrant children showing up at our southern border, these schools are carrying even a larger burden. Schools and students are trying to catch up from massive education loss, as all of you know, from long-term school closures during COVID, and now the federal government is yet again adding more obstacles to their education. It's unacceptable. Students don't deserve this. Parents don't deserve this. Teachers don't deserve this. It's well past time for the administration to do its job to close our border and to restore order to our communities. I want to go start with you, Ms. Camaro. I thought I heard you say earlier, did you say $13 billion in funding is contributed annually to the U.S. economy by illegal immigrants? Is that the number I heard you say?
Not illegal. These are DACA recipients who have the.
Did I get the number right? 13 billion, is that right?
That's right.
Do you know what the cost is to the open border crisis that we're dealing with right now?
I do not.
Well, I'll tell you, the House Budget Committee estimates that the total net cost to the United States from the border crisis, quote, is more than $150 billion a year, with the lion's share of that going to educate children who are here illegally themselves or whose parents are here without authorization, end quote. That's from the House Budget Committee. That's a deficit of $137 billion per year. Who do you think is picking up that $137 billion tax, that price tag?
So DACA recipients are just one set of taxpayers. We also have taxpayers like myself who want to make sure children are educated, and I'm more than happy to pay my taxes for that effort.
And most of the tax dollars that are coming to support our educational institutions are coming from local communities. All of you guys know that. No matter which state you're in, they typically come from local communities. Ms. Rodriguez, you mentioned that Texas has received the most unaccompanied minors, more than 58,000 since 2021. That number is staggering to me. Can you talk about the impact on those districts that are seeing the influx of those numbers, in particular the impact on the taxpayers as well?
Yeah, absolutely, and I appreciate your comment of recognizing the fact that it is mostly state and local funding that funds the public schools. I mentioned in my testimony that over 2,600 unaccompanied minors have been released into my county alone of Tarrant County in North Texas. That's a population of 4 elementary schools. That's roughly the population of Trinity High School that I graduated from, the entire student body population. Meanwhile, in my area, my next door neighbor, who was an elderly widow woman, had to move out of her home because she could no longer afford the property taxes. So even though our state legislature has made moves to try to make property taxes decrease, it's a drop in the bucket and pales in comparison to the cost of especially the schools and the hospital systems that local property taxes have to pay for.
Ms. Egorov, I want to come back to you because you were talking about New York City schools a little bit earlier, and I presume that what you're seeing in New York City is the same across America and same with what we see in Texas, and that is we'd love to pay our teachers more. We'd like to hire more teachers. We'd like to provide higher quality education to our students. A lot of that's made on the local and the state level. Can we keep doing that if we're spreading our resources thinner and thinner for undocumented migrants or illegal immigrants that are coming across the border?
The challenge in New York City, it's not funding. We're spending more than $39,000 per student. New York City is the highest spending district in the country. So we have a lot of resources. But the problem is that stability in the system. When you have a principal who doesn't know how many students are coming next week, who doesn't know which language they speak, who doesn't know how many years these children have not been in school because they were crossing the border, and God forbid what they have seen at the border. We know that the statistics, 70% of women and girls suffer sexual violence when they're crossing the border. This is ending up in our classrooms. The teachers are on the front line having to deal with the trauma, the violence. And, if you're a boy, maybe you saw your mother suffering sexual violence.
It's a travesty. I want to see education for every student in this world, every child in this world. Education gets them advancement. But the truth is, America does not hold the responsibility to educate the world. We do not, and we cannot. The taxpayers that are spending U.S. dollars cannot educate every person in this world. Every country needs to take that on for themselves. We need to close our borders. We need to focus on our kids here to give them a fighting chance. Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you very much, Representative. Let's